All right, hi guys. So this is going to talk kind of about speed control and powder skiing, and what do you worry about and what don't you worry about, particularly when it comes to your skis. So there was a day where Brennan and I were skiing, and there was new snow, a couple inches of new snow. I forget where we were, but it was kind of Brandon was kind of nervous because you can't see his skis. Like, so what are my skis doing underneath the snow? I can't see them. And it's just like in mogul skiing. You don't really pay attention to your skis themselves when you're mogul skiing. You know they know that you're connected to them and you're controlling them and you're riding them, but you're not focused on them. You should be focused on the moguls you're going to be skiing. So it's the same thing with powder skiing. Like I said, your vision is down a ways. Your vision is out here somewhere, and that your primary vision. If you're focused down here about where you're going to turn and what those turns are going to look like, really where you're going to turn. You're not you ski with your peripheral vision, so you have a little bit of vision, just your peripheral vision. You don't want to be looking down at your skis, but you do see them just in your peripheral, and that's just to confirm, that everything is as you expected it. It wasn't a funky shadow or suddenly turned to ice or something that you weren't expecting when you planned it. So you don't really worry about seeing your skis when you're powder skiing. You may worry about it if you feel weird resistance, like you skied onto a rock or some other hard object, or it's suddenly there's a really strong wind crust or something, and then you feel that, and then maybe you look once you feel it. But for speed control, and we'll talk about this in another video more, but one of the key components to powder skiing that's different than mogul skiing is that there is a requirement for the skier to maintain a strong core. I mean, you need to maintain a strong core in both, but you can imagine in all skiing, your feet make contact with the snowpack at the boot ski level, right? So you have in mogul skiing or groomer skiing, that you can think of it as one big center of mass, right? Because you're strong, you're skiing in a strong stance, you have a strong core, so you end up with kind of one big center of mass to think about. But when you're powder skiing, your feet are encountering something that's very different than what your body is. So how much resistance right now is pushing against my body? Well, a little bit from the air. That's about it. How much is against my feet? Well, it's a trick question. Right in this particular shot, the same as my body because my feet are in the air. But in this shot, now you can see, okay, so the body, as it's moving down the slope, the center of mass of your body, in here, it feels basically just the resistance of the air, or if there's snow pushing against it that's flying up your legs, and the resistance of that. But your feet are encountering a lot more resistance because they're in the snowpack at this point, so they're fighting the snow. And this to be a good powder skier, you are prepared that your feet are going to get slowed down, and you need to exercise techniques to keep your upper body in check and in line with your feet. Otherwise, you're going to go over the handlebars whenever your feet encounter heavy, dense snow. You're going to want to fall forward because your center of mass doesn't. So you end up you'd hinge at the waist and then plop forward, right? And you don't want that crash. So it's an important technique to learn, and it's part of what I call your scheme of speed control. So it's one of the key factors to speed control is you anticipate that your feet are going to get slowed down by the snow that they're going through, and you use that to your advantage. So you get an idea of how much braking it's going to give you, and then you add that to your turn shape and frequency to control your speed. So that's really where you start to being able to ski steeper and steeper lines that are powder lines, is you're more and more accepting and using the snow that you're skiing through to slow you down. And what that requires is it requires more functionality of your poles. So you end up having to. It's like in mogul skiing, your pole plant is maybe just a touch on the backside of the top of a mogul, and in a lot of situations in powder skiing, you use your pole plants to help keep your center of mass over your feet. So you'll see where the pull maybe flexes a bit because you're actually using it to help you not necessarily slow down, but keep the center of mass where you want it. Still, most of the slowing down or keeping that your feet and your core together is done with your abdominal muscles and keeping those tight and engaged throughout your turning. Now, so here I am. So my, at this phase of this turn, my feet are coming out of the snowpack, so I have uniform resistance against my body, which is just the air, completely just the air. But now in this phase of the turn, you can see that my feet are kicking up snow, so I'm getting resistance from the snow. And what does happen sometimes is the snow can change so much, it just becomes super dense. And when it becomes super dense, your feet stop. And when that happens, if your feet just come to a stop or near sudden stop, you're going to go over the handle. You're going to crash. It's usually when powder skiers crash is when their feet stop and their upper body keeps going. And there's times where that's going to happen, and there's just nothing you can do about it. There you go. So my feet stopped and my upper body kept going, and you fly over. But you're landing into powder, so it's not that bad of a crash. You get snowy. That's about it. In a case like this, I lost a ski. You can see there. So the one ski, there's so much resistance that you'll pop out of your binding. And this particular run, there was a lot of wind on it, so it was very challenging to ski. And I wasn't surprised that I lost the one ski into the snow, and that made me crash. I don't run with a high din on my bindings. I run at a 9. So I think it has a range to 12 or 13, and I run 9 on that because I'd rather have this happen to me than tear an ACL or something. To me, this is a better outcome, even if the cameraman gets a funny shot. So that's one of the keys is to think about how you're going to use the snow as part of your scheme of speed control and that center of mass control. And that's where you'll see on some of these pole plants, like this pole plant, there's a decent amount of force that I'm applying to this pole, and that's helping stabilize my center of mass relative to the slowdown that I'm experiencing at my feet. And so as a result, you end up using your poles not just for timing and rhythm, but for that purpose. Okay, so that's it for this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.